And welcome to the Thursday, May 11th meeting of the CISM Capital Improvements and Street Maintenance Committee for the City of Wausau. The first agenda for considerations is the consent agenda. Is everybody okay with the consent agenda, the minutes and everything that's on it?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Rasmussen and
I'll
a
second.
second by
Second that.
Alder Denny for the approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And that passes unanimously. Discussion and possible action on the sale of 1515 Curling Way. We will open that up for discussion. Alder Henke.
I guess since they're already parking their vehicles there, I don't, and they're giving us more than what we put down, I don't see any reason for us to hang on to it. So I'll move to approve the sale of 1515 Curling Way.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Henke to approve the sale of 1515 Curling Way. Do I have a second out there? Second by Alder Gisselman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. None opposed? And that passes unanimously as well. Item number 3, discussion and possible action on proposed 2024 street construction projects. I will open this up for discussion. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. In looking over the plan, I specifically was looking at 2025, where I see West Randolph Street, 3rd Avenue from Eldred to Randolph, West Eldred from 1st to 3rd. Those streets are all in close proximity. They all need attention, obviously, but 3rd Avenue from 3rd Avenue from Eldred to Randolph is actually not in as bad a shape as Cherry Street, and we're holding Cherry until 2028. And I guess I'm curious if there's a way to move Cherry up. I mean, I don't care if we swap one for the other, but, if they're already going to be in that area, we try to keep those projects together, get into an area and get out so that we're not under construction in an area for years. The 12 and 1300 block of Cherry are horrible. So if we hold it till then, that new machine we got that, turns old mix into hot mix, we're going to have to do some very large patches in those 2 blocks because you can lose a wheel. That street's getting heavy truck traffic because it gets the truck traffic from Marathon Electric. So those trucks come in on Randolph Street and they then turn on Cherry, and Cherry was never built for semi-traffic, but it's getting it. It's been getting it for 50 years. So it's really, really not in good shape though. And I don't know what the underground utilities look like, but I'm sure they're real old. So I guess if we could either swap that for something else, just to get it a couple years sooner, or include it with the rest of the streets in that neighborhood, that would be helpful.
We've done it before.
We have, but we only have so much money for streets and, we try to spread them out so that we're,
Correct.
I mean, if Cherry Street is 800,000, I was hoping that we would swap it for something that's close to 800,000 that could keep on the list so that the money kind of comes out. But it would be helpful if we could move Cherry up, even to get it a few years sooner, because 28, it's going to be bad. So what
Alan?
are your thoughts, Alan?
Sure. The reason we lumped Randolph, 3rd, and Eldred together, which you're correct, they're all in the same area, and that's one of the highest water main breaks in the area. Not to
Yep.
mention the street's bad, but the water main breaks. So the thought was to keep those all together, and you have a contractor up there who rebuilds all 3 streets at one time.
Yep.
Randolph did move up too because we have some failing storm sewer, those major culverts that cross there.
Down by the River Edge
Down-
Trail.
Yeah, they're failing, and that
Yep.
road is, so instead of going in one year and replacing the pipes, and then that was proposed for next year, and then I believe Randolph was in '26, but then you'd be replacing the pipes one year and reconstructing the road the next, which didn't make
Right.
sense. So I moved it up to 25, and I kept the other 3 streets. I mean, what you could move Third and Eldred out of there, I guess just do Randolph, and you could move Cherry up there. It's not a one for one, that'd be 450, you're putting it 800, so it's.
Yeah, it would be I mean, any way that we can get Cherry's in worse shape than those other two.
I would agree, Cherry's in horrible shape.
Yes, and Eldred from First to Third gets almost no traffic. I mean, just the traffic that's coming in and out of that new subdivision in there, and a few from the apartments, but it's not a heavily traveled street. And it's all just residential, it's automobile traffic, it's not truck stuff or buses or anything. So, I mean, I think Eldred is better to be kept a little longer. And, the worst part of Third Ave was the piece we already did from Randolph to Boss Creek. So, that southern Moore piece that we left behind, we kind of split that project. That Eldred to Randolph piece is, I mean, they all need work, but it's not near as bad as Cherry. So if we could flip-flop, I think that the users would certainly appreciate that. In fact, I've had a couple of requests from people on Cherry in the interim, if this is going to wait to get some major patch work done, like skin patch or something, because it's really rough.
I guess my suggestion would be, if you move up Cherry Street, or even if you don't move up Cherry Street, what if you just put an overlay on it? That's not cost effective, or?
Not at this point. I mean, there's a lot of lead services in there too.
Big time.
And the road is, an overlay it's beyond an overlay.
Most of the homes were put up in the 50s, so most of them do have lead. So,
It has been getting put off just because it is a narrower street, but it is,
So which
I
ones
think
would you
it's-
like to switch around in, Alder Rasmussen or Allen?
well, I want to move Cherry up, but if we have to if we have to make a trade to get the dollars to come out, I would propose that we take Third and West Eldred and swap them for Cherry.
Alder Henke, you?
Is this pressing to get approved this meeting?
no, I guess this could be, you guys could think about it a little bit. What kind of is pressing on is that we for sure approve the 24, just so that we can make sure we're working on them and we can get the assessment letters out. And I think that's pretty solid because Eau Claire has been pushed back several times. And, it was proposed for 22 and then 23 and then 24. So I think it's time to then, and Eau Claire at Boulevard, I just want to solidify that. And why we were doing Emerson, Mount View, and Pied Piper, those are three really bad streets that run between Eau Claire and Kent. And Kent was reconstructed, so that would kind of tie those three bad streets in, so that it just made sense to do those three short sections between Eau Claire and Kent with this project. Also 24, and I added Short Street in there. That's just kind of, the blinker is done with the townhouses and they're done with the apartment buildings down there. And I don't know if anybody's driven Short Street lately. It's horrible.
It's not good.
The sidewalk does not conform to any kind of access for handicap, elderly. It's really bad sidewalk also, and the street is probably the worst street in the city of Wausau. So now the fact that blinker's done there, or they will be done at the end of this summer, I'd like to reconstruct those two blocks. There was a thought to put Second Street in there. Second Street from Short to Bridge is also bad, but there's the possibility of some more development on there, community development, maybe doing some houses, and Blinker maybe doing some more houses on there. So I would hold off on Second Street to a later date. And then really, we don't have to do any approval with Stewart Avenue. That's part of the state municipal agreement we have to reconstruct Stewart Avenue. And that's coming out of TID 10. So, I mean, the rest of this, we can take some comment, we can take some feedback, but we'd like to get 24 solidified for sure.
Okay. So, I mean, just for the sake of getting it approved, I guess we could either approve 2024 separately and then hold the others till next month so you could reevaluate and juggle out the dollars, or we could just approve the whole thing with the change I proposed and then either add Cherry to 2025 or add Cherry in place of Third and Eldred. Which do you think is a better choice is it better to trade streets for streets, or, I mean, we're going to have to borrow more if we just keep adding.
I struggle with this list every year because there's a lot of streets that need to be reconstructed, and
They're horrible, yeah.
Take a walk through my neighborhood.
yeah, and I know Alder Denny brought up another street, Forest, which I agree, and yeah, there's just a lot going on in the city that needs, so, I guess I'm open to suggestions, but what I try to do with this list is obviously pick out the worst streets with a pavement rating, but also pick out streets with the sewer and water, lead services and so on and so forth. And the higher traffic, to be honest, times kind of rises to the top too, right? If you have a street with 2,000 to 3,000 vehicles, or you have a dead end street with 100 maybe,
Right.
that kind of rises to the top too. So, Randolph gets a lot of traffic. South 11th Avenue in 2027 going down to Colby gets a lot of traffic. So some of those streets kind of rise to the top.
Right. That the more southern portion of Third gets less now that the truck route was changed to Merrill Avenue. 3M used to travel Third Avenue heavily, but they don't anymore. Now that's mainly residential traffic because it tees at the end, at the south termini. So, and Eldred has very, very little. So, if anything would keep, I think those two would be fine to keep.
I'm fine with, if that's a recommendation of this committee we'd just be back in Third and Eldred in 3 years or 4 years, but that's.
Which is okay, I think, because I guess I'm a little more concerned about the semi-truck damage to Cherry. And, that really is commerce in and out of there all day. And, that Regal is not as present as they were at that site, but they're still there and they're still operating. So, we still have to accommodate the traffic that they generate too. So, I guess I would move that we approve the entire list with the change being that we would defer Third Avenue and West Eldred Street to 2028 and bring Cherry Street up in its place.
Okay, thank you, Alder Rasmussen. We have a motion to accept the 5-year plan with exception of the changes that Alder Rasmussen suggested. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Right, yeah.
Need a second.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry, yeah, we need a second. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Alder.
So Alan, I know the southeast side with regard to the boulevards, and I think the neighborhood is quite sensitive to the boulevards itself. So, just so that as we go into the design and planning, I hear about that quite often, that they really like those boulevards, and I trust they're going to stay, but just a voice for the design as we know it today, with regard to the boulevards, as well as the light standards that have a unique neighborhood appeal down there. So, just my 2 cents.
But we've heard that also, and we would not propose to, we propose to put it back basically the way it was, maybe a little with difference with the lanes, but we'd keep that center boulevard.
So the islands would stay in the
Yes,
middle?
the islands would stay in Eau Claire.
Okay.
The lighting is going to be a little bit of a challenge. They're old concrete, so we'll have to work with the electricians to see if we can salvage and put those back. They're more ornamental at the intersections. They light the intersections, but there's no mid-block lighting, so I think the decision will have to be made. Do you want to keep that lighting at just the intersections with the old style, or put lighting down the whole? Those are all discussions we can have, but with your original question, yes, we do plan to keep the center islands.
Because I would suggest meeting even with the southeast side neighborhood group. They're quite active, and just so that they're, and I know you'll do that, but just seeing it's good to see it on the list. We've seen this several years, so just supporting the boulevards and the light standards. Thank you.
Well, and the good part of this is that we had always cringed about doing this project to this extent in that area because it disrupts the balloon rally, which now, since that's moved to the far west side, we wouldn't have that problem with this. So it seems
Alder
like
Henke.
it's time.
I also see 28th Avenue on there down, and I know we got multiple options for how that street could get going. It might be better sooner than later to get community input and get some plans going there.
Right, I would agree with that. So we've met internally as staff to kind of go over a few options. We've been cranking out some options and as staff. So we're going to bring that back to CISM. I don't know if that'll come in June or July, but we're going to actually bring some options back to you guys to discuss.
Okay.
And that, that could drive that cost. I have notes on there that, that 1.5 million I think is a lower end. depending on what we want to do out there. But I would like to put a placeholder in that for 26. I mean, if you feel to shift it up or down, but I want to get it on the list because that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yep, and I hear about it quite often, so.
Okay, thank you, Alder Henke. Okay, so now we have a motion on the floor by Alder Rasmussen to accept the 5-year plan with the changes she had suggested, and a second by Alder Gisselman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And there's none opposed. Thank you. We will move on to item number 4 then, discussion and possible action on dedication of right-of-way at 1705 Wagner Street. I'll open for discussion. Or we can turn this,
I can guess I can speak to this a little bit.
Yeah,
It was brought
please.
forward by Bill Hebert in inspection. So on the end of Wagner Street, is my understanding, there's just a small parcel in there that would have prevented the sale or the split of these 2 lots. So if you look on there, they're going to dedicate to the public, and we'll add it on to the end of Wagner Street. Basically 66 feet wide, the width of the street, by like 10.16 feet wide. So basically Wagner Street will become 10 feet longer. That's really all it is, so that they can divide those lots and sell them and have access to Wagner Street.
Alder Henke?
Is that old, that gravel parking lot?
Yeah.
Behind Walgreens there?
Yes.
And then that lot 1, is that between Walgreens and the bowling alley, or that building next to the bowling alley there?
I believe so. Yeah, the
Is-
Walgreens is just to the blank page on the page here.
That's where that old furniture store was, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think it's just more of a cleaning up. I don't know why that 10-foot strip was ever left in there, but it would just provide access off Wagner to these 2 lots. Or at least lot 2, but lot 1 will always have access off Stewart Avenue.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Alder Rasmussen to approve the dedication of right-of-way at 1705 Wagner Street. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alder Henke. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, and we have a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn by Alder Henke. Second. By who?
Denny?
Doug Denny. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and none opposed, and thank you all for coming.